Welcome back to Arise Prime Time. I'm Charles Enyigulu, and I have a guest commentator with me for the rest of the program who will be giving his thoughts on the news and issues of the day. And he is the current affairs analyst and professor of communications at Baze University in Abuja, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. Great to see you, Prof.
Thank you, Charles. Good to see you too.
Let's start with the fiscal medium-term plan that Professor Franklin Ngu was dissecting there. He didn't seem to think that it fulfilled the needs of this country at this particular time. I mean, he seemed to think that there should be a bigger plan accompanying that one, a sort of economic plan that interprets it more for the Nigerian people and makes it more practical. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he said a lot more things as well. You know, yeah, he didn't really condemn the plan, so to say. He was just concerned about the absence of details. You know, like many details on how the government hoped to achieve their economic projections. And of course, he also highlighted some of the problems we've been talking about in the past, where we have plans like these, you know, referring to us having MTEF, even from the Obasanjo period up to this time. But it's not about the plans, but about the failure of implementation, which I also think resonated in the speech, in the comments, the contributions of the immediate past speaker, Taufik, that is. You know, but overall, I think when we talk about matters of economics, it borders largely on confidence. You know, how is the government going to engender confidence, you know, amongst the citizenry? What assurances are they going to give to investors, whether short or long-term investors? And of course, you know, what grounds are you preparing to smoothen the possible inflow of the capital you are probably going to shop for? You know, the other day we heard very clearly that about 13 or 14 billion is coming in from India. We also heard that about 5 or 6 billion is coming in from is it Saudi Arabia? Yeah, Germany again now. You know, so the president is obviously marketing Nigeria, but of course, beyond the marketing, it's also the need for us to have a good ground. You know, and do not forget, you and I discussed the question of trying to involve expatriates into the contributory net, such that maybe about 1.5 to $2 billion, you know, will be raised annually. You know, I mean, these are things that could show up the government's revenue. But beyond that, it's also the needs, you know, for the umpteenth time, we'll keep saying this, to have enough grounds, smoothing the atmosphere, you know, protect the country against, probably very well, against insurgency, against kidnapping, you know, general atmosphere of insecurity, very, very important. And what about electricity, you know? The other grave thing is what Taufik also emphasized, you know, that it's really unthinkable for people to do business in your country, and by the time they want to repatriate their funds, they cannot repatriate it. I remember it's one of the reasons that led to the exit of Emirates Airlines, and now we are seeing GSK leaving, and the other firm that you mentioned too, and on the back of the back of firms that have left us in the past, Cadbury, Michelin, some of them are not just leaving back to Europe or the Americas, they are going to relocate into some other African countries, you know. And what does it take really to create an enabling environment? Good governance, you know. Yes, we refer to it severally. You were discussing it in terms of regulations, in terms of atmosphere, the atmospherics, in terms of proper signaling. But of course, we also know that good governance is key to it. You know, what kind of signal are you giving to the people? You know, local and international community as a leader. And we have seen examples in Africa. We may not like the kind of governance, the government system that we are seeing in those countries, but of course we know that they are progressing at the level of economics, you know, such that capital is flowing in, and the capital that is flowing in may not really be long-term investment. It could be portfolio investment, and they have a way of also triggering the economy, you know, such that you create multipliers, and of course create some other layers of factors that will build up to helping you achieve, you know, the 1 trillion economy that you want to build in another few years or so.
That's a very good analysis. And I was struck also by what Dr. Taufik Raimi was saying, which is that you can go to, I mean, you mentioned some of the things like the monies that are investments expected from India. I mean, those are just headline grabbing figures. You see what I mean? Because, you know, they'll do a press conference, they'll make an announcement, but when you come to the nitty gritty, they're not going to take their money and put it into Nigeria unless they're absolutely sure that the environment is not only right, in other words, it will generate profit for them, but that they can, you know, their money is safe. So all those things that Dr. Raimi was talking about must be in place before you attract that level of foreign investment.
Yeah, but at the same time, we may not have to wait until everything is in place. You keep trying, you know. But back to what we mentioned earlier, and the confidence is very, very important. You know, give the people confidence that it's no longer going to be business as usual. And what are we really doing about blocking leakages, you know, and ensuring transparency and accountability? It's also good for us to see government making efforts in other sectors apart from oil, you know, in steel development. We keep mentioning this, in agriculture to some extent, or irrespective of the headwinds that coming out in that section through the instrumentality of insecurity. We know that efforts are being made in steel development to broaden the economy, you know, to expand our resource base. But unfortunately, these things are not going to be rewarding in the short term. They're going to be in the long term. That's why I think that government is making effort in the short term, you know, talking to investors, trying to expand those in the contributory net. You know, those are the things that can be done in the short term. And of course, dealing with insecurity is not something, it's not going to be like using a magic bullet, you know, and of course the problem will be resolved. No, it's going to take some long term. But reassurance, you know, can actually do the magic. And right signaling, the right optics, you know, what are developments that we are seeing in the immediate circumstances that is showing us that government is really making conscientious efforts, that we are actually serious. Are we seeing those things, you know? Yeah, if we're seeing right steps in the right direction, I'm sure that people will want to bring in their capital, as the case could be, because nobody wants to keep their capital lying low, you know, lying fallow, you know, without playing any kind of function. But of course, before they deploy it, they want to be sure that, you know, they will get return for it.
Of course, there's a lot of competition, isn't there, for that money, particularly in Africa. Absolutely,
you know, and I think it's also good, you know, but it's a conversation that will continue because you know, time is running out against the president. You know, he's got the right body language, no doubt. You know, we know, like previous presidents, that the intention is right. He's got a pedigree. He has a background in economics, you know, what's and all. And he's been in business, you know, so what we expect is for him to transport these experiences into governance.
Yeah, but they might say, listen, hold your horses. I've only been there for 6 months. I mean, I've got 3.5 more years to go. But so let me start by learning to walk, and then I'll start running.
The citizens are really somewhat in a hurry. Remember, the president is also happy to pride himself as being a reformist. You know, he was in Germany a few days ago. He said he deserves to be in the Guinness Book of Records, you know, for starting reform even on the day. Though, you know, so but what it means is that if you can start the reform early, then citizens are also asking that, you know, we want to see our redemption coming early enough as well. You know.
Prof, I want to thank you very much indeed. Professor Abiodun Adeniyi is a current affairs analyst and professor of communications at Baze University in Abuja. Thank you. That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.